and welcome to the seminar series today arranged by the Faculty of Economics, Thammasat University. Today we have a great pleasure to welcome Professor Jonas Mansson from Linnaeus University. And today he will present the paper entitled Overall Allocative and Technical Efficiency for Swedish District Court. Now the floor is yours. So you will have around 40 minutes for the presentations, and after that you will have the discussions.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to use the microphone for... Okay, I do. I think that I met most of you before. Last year, when I was talking about high efficiency and higher education institutions. And this is something that I'm doing on a regular basis because I'm working at the Swedish National Audit Office and the Norwegian National Audit Office as a part of the team that do efficiency studies and productivity studies. So what we do is developing models that are used in the public sector. Before I start here, I can say that this study is you can say an extension of an audit report that we did for the Swedish government, or not the Swedish Parliament, because we are monitoring the government. And that is something I would like to meet up with the Thai audit office also, because I have some inspiration in lectures. So we were supposed to, or we were looking at efficiency in the district courts. And here is the extension. So here we're looking at not only technical efficiency, but also cost efficiency. I will come back to differences there afterwards. But the motivation for this study, well, you can say that in the budget law, it says that all provision of services should be efficient. In the instructions for all authorities and government bodies, it says that it should be efficient, but they don't measure efficiency. So that is the motivation for it. But it's also, from a scientific point of view, is that there's actually very little research on cost efficiency. And especially in this area here. There are two studies, Swedish studies, and that's two studies that I'm also involved in. And that is the cross-sectional study. We talk about technical efficiency and productivity. We talked a little bit about productivity and how to measure productivity, and that's what I'm doing with Supavat here, is measuring productivity of the Thai economy. But I also have a PhD student. Currently, he's lucky because he's in New York, freezing, but he's working with William Green, so that's good. So there's a big literature on just technical efficiency here, and you see that there are a couple of studies from USA. You have Norway. We have a researcher in Norway called, his name is Finn Persson. He's been around since the early 70s. Actually one of the persons that developed models here used. But we also have a little bit around Italy, Poland, and Portugal. But that are on technical efficiency. And technical efficiency, just to say a few words about that. Technical efficiency is when we look at resource use or real production. That is to minimize input given output or maximize output given input. Cost, well, there you have prices also that you have to take care of. And the type of efficiency that we can talk about, we can talk about economic efficiency, but then you have cost of profits. Allocative or price efficiency. I'll come back to that in a little bit, but why are you not cost efficient? Normally you say that, okay, it's because you're using too much resources, you pay. But it could also be that you pay the wrong price. And then you can talk about long-run technical efficiency. If we go back to the textbooks in economics, you know that we have this U-shaped average cost curve, and we should be down in the bottom of that one. In the short run, traditional textbooks, again, you have different U-shapes, average cost curves. So you can actually allow different technologies. You can be small, but you can still be short-run efficient here. Well, combining them, then we can talk about scale efficiency, and that is related to optimal size. And the last thing in terms of efficiency that we can look at is congestion. And so you can say that, and everything here has to do with economic efficiency. If you have some type of inefficiency down here, below, then you have inefficiency up here. And the theoretical foundation for this is back in the 50s. And here's a when you speak for management, people within management science, they say that the birth of studying efficiency was 1978, when three authors, Charles Copeland Rose from Texas, developed something that we call data envelopment analysis, DEA. But actually it was Farrell in 57 that developed that. The difference between Charles Copeland Rose and Farrell is that Farrell had non-PhD students. Charles Copeland Rose had 60. And you know what you have to do as a good student? You have to cite your supervisor. So 60 times 3 papers, and that's 120 citations. But if you look at the years here, I mean, we go back to the 70s where things are happening here. And there are a lot of applications, not in the area of district courts. So, now, the 10,000 baht question is, why are they cost efficient? Well, they could be that they're paying too much for the inputs. They use the wrong kind of inputs. Or they use too much inputs. That's the way you drive up the costs. So, our task here is to see allocative or price efficiency. Those two are related to that, and that one is related to technical efficiency.
This is for given output.
Yeah. In this case, we will have given output. Yeah.
Given number of cases.
Yeah. Just a little bit of formality here. So what we say that is you have a technology, and technology is something that's real. It's actual inputs and outputs. And technology is defined as you have your input that can produce your output. If we go to overall efficiency or cost efficiency, then we have another component here, this W. And the W here is the input prices. So here we have Y, output, X, inputs, W, input prices. And we would like to minimize the cost given that you belong to the technology or what you're producing. And technical efficiency is defined as that, in this case, since we're using an input model that is minimize input given output, that is, you cannot reduce input and still produce the same amount of output as you do. And our inefficiency is defined as you can reduce inputs and still produce the same amount of outputs. The relationship between these measures is that you have cost efficiency. I said that cost efficiency or economic efficiency comes from something, and it comes from either you use too much input or you pay too much or have the wrong mix. And that means that you can also compute this allocative efficiency. So here we have overall efficiency or cost efficiency equal technical efficiency times allocative efficiency. So allocative efficiency is just computed or following directly from this here. To go back to the illustration here, what are we doing here then? And this is 50 plus now. One time I started with microeconomics. I never left microeconomics. I'm still there. with the isochrones. Lecture number 3. So A here, just for illustration, A is an observation. We assume now that all here units that we talk about are producing the same amount of output. So A is using more input. It could reduce input to A star here. By being located on the isopoint, it will be technically efficient. So the objective to reduce technical efficiency is actually to put yourself on the isopoint. But here are also 3 budget types, or isocosts. B1 say that this is with, here we have fixed input prices. If we are located here, we need the budget B1 to be used there. If we become technically efficient with this input price, we come down here. So we can reduce cost from B1 to B2. Good, but not good enough. Because with the input prices that we have, we should actually be located in A triple star. And that means that we can reduce costs even more from B2 to B3. So practically what we're doing here now is that we measure the distance out to A and compare that to A double star if we're talking about cost efficiency. Technical efficiency we compare with A single star. So it's the relative distance here that we're talking, and you can interpret it as a percentage that you can reduce costs compared to what you are. One of the good things by working with the Swedish National Audit Office is that we by law have access to all the information that we need. So that's good. That means that authorities cannot never refuse to give us information. Then we go in and take it. That goes for the military, that goes for the police, everything. We have 48 courts in Sweden. Another research area that we are looking into now, we have one paper on the way, is where we look at mergers. Back in the 90s, late 90s, there were 96 courts, but they reduced to 48 with intention to increase efficiency, but they have never followed up on that. As with service production, when we come to inputs, it's quite easy in some way. We have 3 different categories of labor. And we have one obscure measure of capital. And to define input and output here now, I must say that we put maybe 2 or 3 months in seminars, meetings with the Swedish court administration, just to discuss what is the most appropriate way to aggregate and handle your input and output. Here is judges, law clerks, and other staff, and that we decided on. We have office space here, and that is some measure you see quite often, and that is a proxy for capital. And what you assume here is that you, in service production, you have one chair, you have one computer, you have one, and also you have here more or less given input prices. So the correlation between total capital and the office space that you have is quite high. What we normally do is that you have other types of capital also. So what we try to do is to do sensitivity analysis.
Is this imputed rent?
But
The rent is imputed, right?
yeah.
Is
No.
Because the cost actually so imputed.
No, they don't have.
Not in Sweden.
No, it's actually it's owned by the court administration. So everyone has to pay a rent to the court administration that owns, or actually it's the Swedish property that owns it.
But what nature of the market is this?
Oh, that's market rent, I would say. We see that. We see that when we look at the data, that they are not cheating. You have lot variation there. that is mainly what makes this a little bit interesting. When it comes to output, well, courts, they are producing a lot of things. So they have 300 subgroups of cases and matters. I will not go into cases and matters, but here, I mean, you have a divorce, you have adoption, you have criminal charges, whatever, and it's a huge variation. You have parking tickets, you have to handle that as well. And of course, if you have 48 observations and you have 300 different outputs, they have problems with degrees of freedom. So you need to aggregate in some way. And here we were helped a lot by the court administration. So what we did was to start with interviews with the personnel at the Swedish National Court Administration, and we came up with 3 main outputs. But then we have to, even if we have 3 main outputs, we need to aggregate. If you just add within, then you assume that the resource use for each subgroup is the same. So we needed to have some variable that actually could be a good proxy for resource use, and that is used everywhere. And we use hearing time, and we had access to average hearing time for the last 10 years. So we use that to weight. And here's an illustration. You have economic crimes at a mean hearing time of 215 minutes. Drug offences, 57 minutes. If you just add them, a court that having a lot of drug offences compared to a court that having economic crimes, they could produce much more than they can do with the same resources. So the inefficiency there is not about being efficient, it's about the output mix. So you have to handle that as well. We also here made a factor analysis to see if we ended up with the main components here. And as you can suspect, when you talk to people that are working within the court area for decades, and they say we have 3 main outputs, then it's 3 main outputs. So the output that we have is now not decided criminal, real estate, and environmental cases, decided civil cases, court matters, and that's divorce, adoption, parking tickets. Presently I'm doing the same type of audit in Norway, and we actually have to teach the Norwegian court administration that you just can't add. And now they started to listen. Sweden is a long country, very low density of population. Bangkok having 6 million inhabitants, 7?
More than 10.
10?
More than 10.
More than 10, okay, and Sweden have 10. So Sweden and Bangkok is the same size in terms of population.
But it's unreliable.
In Sweden it's
People move in.
yeah. What I would like to illustrate with this is that if you see here, you have a lot of variation in size. Judges full-time 2.4 and maximum 74.7. So we have to keep this in mind as well. And why do we can look at the output also? Here, criminal cases, 248, and a maximum 7,209. That's quite large differences. In Sweden, if you want to have a court, then it's regulated. You have to be at least 2 judges. You have to have minimum staff. That's one thing. So the minimum staff, and that is independent of demand for court services. So why should you have a court a very small court. Well, that's regional policy. You should serve everyone. I don't know if it's the same in Thailand. I mean, maybe not every city, but every little town should have their own court, or they should have their own school, or hospital, or whatever.
By the way, in Sweden, you are the civil law, or what is the legal system in Sweden?
Oh, the legal.
The civil law.
Yeah. This is, so everything here is I mean, that's civil law, yeah. What we talk
Not
about.
common law.
No.
The legal system.
Yeah, if you take away that is handled outside. And here was something that this is Swedish Jonas, so times 4 we have that. And there's hourly wages. And when I was presenting this in Australia, as I said, well, that was later. So I actually had to go back and check it. And it is correct. Judges in Sweden, they don't earn that much. So why are they working as judges then, do you think? Because after working as a judge for a couple of years, you move out and then you become a lawyer, and then you get, since you have judge experience, you can charge much higher. So it's marketing.
So no one hired because it's too expensive.
Yeah. So what we have here is that we have prices, and here, but you talked about market prices. If you look at the rent, that's square meter. The lowest price is 323 Swedish krona, 1,200 baht. The highest price is 4,000 baht. And already here you can start to keep this in mind, because this is going to be a very important part of the next story. So we look at the results. Well, when we study efficiency in the Swedish administration, you can say that we expect an averaging efficiency between 10 and 15%. That's slack. Well, bad management or whatever. So where we end up there, like we did here, 0.86 should be interpreted that it's possible, on average, to reduce input by 14% and still produce the same amount of output. 91 or 0.89 here is that you can reduce input by 11%, and so on. And this is what we find. But the good thing about this method is that, here is number of efficient units also. This is something very good to report, because sometimes when you're using this type of model, then you can have one or two that are extremely good, that are the best of the best. And then we talk about something called super efficiency. Or you can have a model where you have very many dimensions, and then you have a lot of efficient units, but they're not efficient because they're good. They are efficient because they are unique. So one actually can mean either you are efficient, it could mean that you are considered efficient but you still have a potential. It could mean that you are unique. So you have to look into the results afterwards to do this. In this case, 48 cores, 6, 7, sounds reasonable. And I think only one or two were unique here. But here, from a policy point of view, this is how we present the results. And now, if you look carefully, now you can understand why the names in IKEA come from when you look at furniture. They are down here, Swedish cities. So next time if you buy furniture at IKEA, then you have here. But what you say here now is that, okay, here we have efficiency for each quarter. And they are fine with us presenting the result like this. So we say that here we have again that have, so we have inefficiency on that axis. So they down here are efficient. That means they cannot reduce input without, or they cannot reduce input and still produce the same amount of output. And this is a very important thing if you look at this picture, that because up here, it's no problem to reduce input and still produce the same amount of output. I don't know about Thailand, but in Sweden, it's normal that when you're trying to increase efficiency, what you do is say that everyone should save 10%.
We don't have enough judges.
Okay. But in the public sector, when you do it, I mean, we take cheese slicer, we say everyone should save 5% or 10%. So then we can look here. If we had said that everyone should reduce their input by
how many judges are required to sit in one case?
I think it's only one.
Because in Thailand, you require three judges.
Yeah.
You require one?
Yeah, I think so. Only one judge. I mean, it depends on the
Very efficient.
Depends on what type of case. I mean, it's the pocket ticket. I think that you also, what you can do is that you have law clerks that are training to become judges. And if you have parking tickets or something like that, you can delegate to them to take them. But of course, if you have a murder or economic crime, I think that you are more judges. But going back to my 10% cheese slicer here. So here we have 10%. And of course, if I reduce input by 10% for those guys over here, what my models say is it will not be possible for them to produce the output that they previously produced. On the other hand, over here, there's no problem. They can reduce the input by 10% and still produce the same amount. So as a policy outcome of using this type of model is to say that, okay, when you do this type of savings, you have to look really careful on where can you save. Every union cannot save the same amount. So that's for that. But then you have those over here. And how do you explain that you have some district court in Sweden, a quite well-functioning country, that managed to get 35% in efficiency? Is the model correct or whatever? So when we are doing this type of analysis, when we have the results, we sit down with the Swedish National Court Administration again, presenting the result, and ask them, is it possible to understand? Yes or no? Yeah. Because if it's not possible to understand, then we have done something wrong. Then we have to go back to the drawing board again. And here we have one little fellow who I spent 2.5 hours with. Lycksele. If you ever come to Sweden and you travel almost as north as you can get, and now we're not talking about -11, now we're talking about -20 and 2.5 meters of snow. Lycksele is a small town located really north of Sweden. Population in Lycksele, I would guess, around 10,000. By tradition and prestige, they have a district court. And then go back to the minimum requirement, where I said, you have to be 2 judges at the district court to have a district court. The waiting time in Lycksele is 0. So in terms of quality, they are very good. But why are they very good? Because they have excess amount of inputs. So now we can understand that. And the court administration were really happy because they knew it, but they couldn't put the finger on it. We also have Sundsvall up here. We say this has been a district court that has not been functioning for the last 10 years. And we see it in our data. So that, okay, we can understand this one. So that was the cost efficiency. Now if we turn over to allocative efficiency. And allocative efficiency is that you're paying too much or have the wrong input mix. And here we have the figures for that. So it's not so much that you are paying the wrong. It's about around 8-9% is related to that you have wrong input mix or paying the wrong prices. And if you remember from descriptive statistics, the range for rent is 1,200 baht up to 4,000 baht. So here, when we look at that, we have to think about that also. And here I'm going to introduce a little bit of Swedish geography also for you. So here we have, surprisingly, we have one of the biggest and most competent district courts, that's Stockholm. But they have an allocative efficiency of around 50%. If you ever come to Stockholm, I think that you, by walking distance from the central station, can find the district court in an A plus location. So, they are located in the real best location in Stockholm and pay in market rents. You can say that by tradition, almost all district courts are located in city centers, but of course you have variation there also. What happened now? We said that, okay, so we see here that Stockholm is located here, it's allocatively inefficient, probably because it's located in the city center. And also, I mean, you have to pay a little bit more in wages in Stockholm, because it costs more to live.
So that's what happened in any that the case is zero.
Oh,
does it mean that the court is very inefficient? No output is produced.
Exactly. That's what happened in Lycksele. That is exactly what happened in Lycksele. The demand for the so they have to have 2 judges. They have to have this minimum staff, but the demand is not there. So what happened is that they will become very inefficient.
No, but the point is that the resident there might be a very good citizens.
Yes.
They never commit anything illegal.
No. I mean, and that's the motivation why you should have district courts everywhere. So you need close, right? But then you have to have minimum staff. And if you don't have enough crime, it sounds silly to say that, but the best way to increase efficiency in Lycksele is probably by increased crime. So you have something to do, not sitting and waiting. But here, it's I go a little outside. What happened in the Swedish authorities? They are, by tradition, located in the city center of Stockholm. Now, employment office is moving out, local insurance office moving out, tax authority is moving out from the city center. Why? Well, it's not about convenience, because we have a very efficient underground system. It only takes you 10 minutes. But you reduce the rent by half. Here again, I mean, this is
So, Jonas, but if you mentioned about that, I'm not quite sure that your study is already adjusted by the cost of living. Because you say that Stockholm is inefficient because it's paid too much, right? Because you stay in Stockholm and you spend in the day stuff, something like that. But in Stockholm, maybe the cost of living is higher than other places.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure the result that you mentioned here is already adjusted for the cost of living.
Oh yes. This is. Oh, let me go back down. This is exactly. I mean, that's a part of it. If I locate a district court in Stockholm, then I don't have to be in the city center, but say that I locate myself in the city center and I'm going to hire persons. Then I have to pay a wage premium and I pay the high rent. But what are the options? That is not to have the district court in Stockholm. Then you don't have to pay the wage and you don't have to pay the rent.
Yeah, but at least maybe at the lower price, right? And then if you say that other places is efficient than the Stockholm, but because it's located in cheaper the cost of living, I doubt about that, right? Because I'm not quite sure that you already adjust by this kind of thing, in your result.
I think that this is a. Can you please say this question? We discussed that when I come to the end, because here is when we come to the policy conclusions. Because what are you going to do with this? Here's a comment on technical efficiency also. I said that okay, technical efficiency here is about input use. You're using too much. And point, I think as I said wrong before, because as we were talking about cost efficiency, I said only you can reduce your cost by 11%, or your budget with 11%. Here is input use, okay? So the input use here, you can reduce your input by 6% and still produce the same amount of output. And we still have the figure. And here we have Lycksele. Lycksele has been up here all the time. High cost efficiency, high technical efficiency, high allocative efficiency. Here's I just did one slide and say, okay, what are the causes of cost efficiency? And over here, you have some causes that everything in cost efficiency, it has to do that you're paying too much or have the wrong input mix. You see that everyone has a little bit of blue that are inefficient. But here, up here, most of the inefficiency is due to input use instead. See if I can find one guy over here. Just to illustrate, let me go back here. And here we have one. Jönköping, not possible to pronounce if you're not Swedish. But I will give you some idea what is Jönköping. Jönköping had a district court. It had the next instance court. It has the national court administration located in the same place. This is a town of 120,000 people around. So how do you do career within the system? Well, you can go from district court to higher instance court, you can go to the court administration, and then you become a lawyer again and you earn money. So what happened here is it's really easy to recruit high quality staff. But if you would like to have a lawyer as a cleaner, then you have to pay him a little bit more than the cleaner salary. But on the other hand, you can just take him in and put him to do other things. And this was really surprising for the National Court Administration, because what happened when you have high quality staff is that, of course, that you can produce high quality decisions. And you could be quite efficient in terms of time. But you are paying a price for it. So that's what we say here. You can have really high quality staff, but compared to others that we think are doing more or less the same, you might pay a little bit too much. So, if we then come to conclusions, and what is the output from our research back here? So, we have found an average cost of inefficiency of 87 That means that we can save 30%. Okay. As a whole. Yeah, but we also, in my diagrams, I showed you that there are cores that are fully efficient, but there are also cores where you have an inefficiency of 35%. So that means that to realize these 13%, you can't just say that everyone should save 30% because then some will become inefficient. What we normally do is to say that we can learn from each other. That means since this is a relative measure of efficiency, someone is efficient, and we can observe those that are efficient. So we recommend that those that are inefficient should actually go and visit those that are efficient and see if they can do something better. We also tell the government that reducing inefficiency is nothing that you can do with one percentage figure. You have to be really careful. To realize all these 30% here, you have to really pinpoint. So why do we have this inefficiency? I told you several times now that to have this district court, you have this minimum requirement for the staff. And if you don't have the demand for legal or court services, of course you become inefficient. Courts are often located in city centres. Why do they have to be that? Well, the court administration say that, well, you should be in the city centre because then it's close for people who live there. We have courts that are located in quite remote areas. Lycksele, as I told you about. But that is defined by regional policy concerns. We should have the same service around Sweden. So that motivates that one. So what are we going to do? Well, we can develop a pool of staff that we can send around. So that we don't have to have 2 persons staying in Lycksele, for example. We could move out of city centres just to reduce rents. We could move out of towns and say that we should not have a district court in Stockholm. There are suburbs outside where we can put it. Or, as economists, we can also do this. Dear politicians, this is the price to pay. That was up to you. And here I think it is a little bit of awareness. When politicians say that we should have service all over Sweden, they don't think about the cost. When we decide to say that it's very, very important that we're close to the citizens, we don't think about the cost. When we put minimum requirements, we do it from some quality or whatever aspects, but we don't think about the cost. So the recommendation that we say is that, okay, now we have developed this model, we have computed efficiency or inefficiency. This is the cost you pay for your other policy concerns, if it's only that. Otherwise, it's management's lack, and that you can handle. Just to round up here, it is also, as an economist, it's really important to say that, well, we do something that is demanded. And here we are doing research and audit reports. We developed this model for the court administration, you say. What happened afterwards was that they thought that this was so interesting that in their yearly report, they put those results in. That's number one. Number two is that they asked us for training their staff so they can conduct it. So now we have one of the staff of the court administration who actually can run this type of model by himself. So that's the input that we can provide also. So a little bit of training, new material that come out here. And I think that if you are doing this type of efficiency productivity studies applied on some area, you can make important contributions. But you also need to put a little bit of effort afterwards. Otherwise, it ends up in a drawer. When we did the same type of study for the Swedish employment offices, they have done it 3 or 4 times before. It ended up in the drawer. Now we said, okay, let's do it together. They use the same tool, they use our model in the yearly report. And they make decisions about it. Okay, so that's my presentation of Swedish district courts.
So your second, what to do here? You can reduce the rate of the court.
Yes.
But the cost to the society might not be lower because the clients have to travel.
Yes, and that's the argument that they put forward to us. So, I mean...
So you're looking at the private cost of the court or the social cost.
Of course, you have to take that in consideration that if you move out from the city center, we talk about Stockholm, for example. So what I say is that's located in AAA, so you have walking distance from the tube. But if you put that in the same place where they put the employment office, the headquarters for the employment office now, it will be a 10-minute tube ride. So, of course, but you're absolutely right, and that's the motivation. Why should you be located in the city centers? Well, you have this type of social cost because you have traveling time. You have, that's a little bit, if you're living in the north suburbs and you put it in the south, then you have to travel all through the town as well. So, consider, okay, this is all one part of the equation, but it could be other considerations here. But in some areas, I mean, even small cities have high-priced areas. So if you take out a little bit from the district, you can reduce by 50% just by moving out a little bit. It's not like moving out from city center in Bangkok and put yourself up in Ayutthaya or somewhere else. It's reasonable to commute. But I think it's. This is. Or I can put that into the equation and then can compute about that. But you can also say that, okay, politicians, if you would like to do this, you know the cost so far. You can reduce that, but you get other costs.
Jonas, could you kindly explain about your judiciary system? Suppose that the district court, the verdict, if the client is not happy, can he appeal to the Court of Appeal?
Yep.
And then to the Supreme Court?
Yes, they can. Yep.
So this is not the final answer.
Okay. What you raise here is a question that we talk a lot about to the court administration. For most cases, they are not appealed. They not go to higher instances. No, they stop. So this is the final outcome. But then we were thought, okay, can you see this as a quality indicator? I mean, it could be if you are sloppy in the district courts, then you can do a lot.
How about criminal cases?
Yeah, in criminal cases. But what can happen when you come to another instance? It could be that you've done a sloppy job at the district court, or you have new evidence that come out. And then you move up to the higher level. And then you have to start all over again. So if you are doing, if something...
New evidences.
Yeah, new evidence or something that's been conducted wrong. But most of the time, I would say that the new evidence in criminal cases is that you find new evidence, or that the police did something wrong in the investigation. Then you can appeal for a higher instance here. We thought of using this as a quality indicator, and we took the share that went to higher instances and said that, okay, if that is the case, if they're doing a sloppy job here in the district court area. So the reason for appealing to higher instances is due to the fact that district courts are handling the cases bad. Then we should control for that. The correlation between now the share of cases that went to higher instances and efficiency was less than 0.01. So you can say there's no correlation. So there were no difference between efficient and inefficient district courts when it comes to.
But the point is that the length of time of each case can affect your efficiency consideration.
Yes.
Not just number of cases, but each case will require different length of time.
And that's what we use this hearing time as a weight in the aggregation. Yeah. So, and that is, I think that's very important. I mean, if you have this bunch, 300 type of subgroups, and you have droners that go there. So in Sweden they were banned, but then you can apply for permits to do that. And we have one district court in Sweden that do that, and that is, say, put a stamp. Yes. So they could do very much. Stockholm District Court is a little bit specialized on heavy crime. So they will have those murder cases, economic crimes. So of course, with the same type of resources, they cannot produce the same amount. So that's why we use the hearing time for aggregation. So that means that we expect Stockholm to do less than this district court to take this. So they implicitly in the model must be the composition of court activities.
So can you go back to the one that you just mentioned on the hearing times as a way, right?
Yeah.
So across the different cases, do they have different the hearing times, the rate? Which one is going to be the difficult one? Or it depends on the expertise of the court.
Yeah. So, of course, you can't just take a snapshot. So we use data from 2007 to 2015. I'll say, okay, so we have some variation of that. It's not perfect, but we have for each case that went up to district court. And that is the way we needed something that is correlated with resource use. And hearing time, well, that's correlated with resource use. Just because, as you say, that some take longer time and some take shorter time. And if you add them together, then you have to take that into consideration. So here we have, this is something that I think, if we go back to previous research, they did not do that. But they also, in several footnotes, pointed that out. I will not say that hearing time is the absolute best, but you need to have something that is correlated with resource use. In Norway, where we are doing the same exercise, I don't know if we can get hearing time, but we get something else that's correlated with resource use that we would use as ways. Because since you have such variety within these, decided criminal cases, of course you have variation. Some cases you have a witness. You have someone who's seen it. It's easy. So you did it. That's for you. In some cases you have indices. Take much longer. So that's the way we handle that.
If most of the cases are traffic violations, it will be very efficient.
Yeah.
It can be solved so quickly.
Parking tickets.
Yeah.
Good park, but if we then compare court with parking tickets, they handle only parking tickets, with one with only heavy crimes. So then we expect them to do 200, while they are doing one. So if you just add up, like they did in much of the previous research.
Jonas, but the case of the crime, the criminal cases, I think the market fails to capture all the benefits because it generates external economy to the society.
Criminal cases.
Yeah, when you reduce the crime,
Yeah.
people will be happy. And that part the market cannot capture it.
Well, that is.
That's why we call it market failure.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Because and also, the solution to reduce crime in Sweden is more police.
More police.
And
make people well educated.
yeah. Or as when I was talking to a guy in South Africa, in Johannesburg, we're driving through Johannesburg, and we were talking about crime. And I said, "Oh, in Sweden we have more police." He said, "It's not the solution. We have to change in people's minds." And I totally agree with it. And I've been doing some research on police, also see the impact of increased number of police. Do you know what happens when you increase number of police?
Kids.
You get more crime. Because then you have the possibility to find more crime. We look at the data. So there's a positive correlation between number of police and crime, but it does not. So we don't actually know if more police reduces crime.
So you mentioned that, to one policy that you recommend is to look at the other city and look at why they don't have the inefficiency. And I look at yours, we have the 6 in 2015 that efficiency.
Yes.
Right? So what happened in that, and then how other city can replicate that kind of the model?
I think everyone who's in prison, you will have. Yeah. Okay. I was doing this in Norwegian code. We'll see if it works. If it don't work, I put it in my back pocket and you throw it away. Okay? So we take the concept of technical efficiency. So if you become inefficient, since this method is a relative measure, that means you will always have someone who's efficient and someone who's inefficient. And that one is inefficient. C. Oh, I'm taking output based here. Sorry. We take it. So we are maximizing output given inputs here. But that one, what we say is that if you are inefficient, you should go and visit A and B and see what they are doing. If they are doing something that you don't do, it might be better. When I was doing this back in the early 90s for the Swedish taxi industry, I took the liberty to send a letter to C. Say that, okay, we have found out that you have an inefficiency of 30%. You are compared with booking center A and B. Here you have name and telephone numbers if you would like to go and visit. And of course, they were a little bit unhappy because they were inefficient, but they were really happy because they now got a possibility to see, get some inspiration out of organized production. We have to be aware of one thing. This type of DEA analysis, that is relative efficiency. That is, in my case, this is the Swedish championship. There's nothing that says that Sweden is the best in the world. Just look at football. You're the best in Sweden, but not very good. A drawback, of course, but also this type of relative efficiency means that C here could always become efficient by replicating what A or B is doing.
And for the relative one, can give some concrete solutions, how the other many city can replicate the mega cities in Sweden.
Yeah. I mean, to be very concrete, so why do you have? Look, why are you inefficient? You can say, okay, you have external factors. You have factors that you can't influence, but you can have management stacking. So it could be the way you have organized your production. Yeah? It could be the staff composition. How many assistants should you have, for example? If I get your question right, so this is what we recommend. Or when you are trying to tackle this inefficiency, it's okay. If you compare with A and B here, see if you can find something that you can take on board. As economists, we normally don't go inside, but here in a new audit that we're going to do on the local tax office, I am doing this computation. Then we are sending in people from organization to study within differences here. I've done one such study before. I don't know if we have anyone here that are doing management or leadership studies, but we investigated the relationship between efficiency and leadership. And then you have in leadership research, you have these leadership profiles that you are doing. And unfortunately, we didn't find any correlation between efficiency and leadership. Don't ask me. There was a guy, professor, who did this leadership profiles. So we have different type of leadership. And then we expect that there's some type of leadership profile that increase efficiency. But unfortunately, we didn't find it. I think he had 8 studies when he said leadership and efficiency don't correlate.
Jonas, in your data is annual data.
Yes, it's annual data.
And the number of cases here, the case that has been solved.
Yeah.
How about the number of cases that are unsolved?
Backlog.
Yeah.
Oh, the backlog is we use them. We use them when they are solved. So everyone is separate.
But in any location,
yeah,
there might be more cases that solved than others. But number of cases unsolved will be so huge.
Oh yes. So we have also studied the correlation between backlog and efficiency, and there is some correlation. What we could have done is to use incoming cases as an input and solve cases as an output. Now we choose.
But you never include the one that has not been solved yet.
No.
And the ratio of this, if you compare to district, it might be quite different.
Yeah. So that's actually, I mean, that's a quality. That's the quality aspect because that's the time. And let's see if I can take that one I talked about. Yeah, we take this guy. Lycksele. They don't have any backlog. So they are really efficient in that aspect, that if something comes into Lycksele, they will handle it directly. Jönköping. Yeah. They are here also. They are, even if the cost efficiency, they are really good at the hands. They don't have that much of a backlog. You could have done that we did when we looked at the employment office. Then we have the inflow of unemployed, the stock and the flow each year. So we started with that, and then we put that as an input. In this case, we decided to use it on a second stage analysis. So we correlate, in this case, technical efficiency and the backlog, and there was some correlation, but I don't know. We decided to not use it. But you're right. It's not.
Also, the court system is only part of the justice system.
Oh yes.
So, does another branch affect the efficiency of the court? For example, law enforcement, other law enforcement mechanism.
That's what we trying to develop here now. Because before, you can start over here. Then you have police. Police is doing the first
And
investigation.
the attorney.
And then you have the attorneys that prepare the case for the court. So the inefficiency here on the district court, if you have a lousy police force, sloppy police force, that don't do right things.
Fewer cases.
Yeah.
We can expect.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. What we need for that is to put the whole system in place. And then you don't use this type of partial analysis that we do here. Then you use something called a network model. So then you say that the police is producing intermediate input or output that is used as an input for the attorneys, that producing intermediate output that is used as an input for the district court. So then you have the chain. And then you can say that inefficiency that we see in the end here could actually be something that we have before. I mean, this type of network modeling is coming quite a lot. And we have one suggestion, and that is to do the attorneys. And then what we would like to do is combine them. But we do something of it.
You know, the legal system in Thailand has dualistic nature. You get that? The dualistic legal system. Because by law, we have civil law.
Yeah.
But in the rural area, people follow common law. They do not bring they don't bring all cases to them, except the criminal cases they cannot settle by themselves. And therefore, the common law could go side by side with the civil law. Practically. That's what happened in Sweden.
No, I will say that it's you have one system, and that's within. I know I'm quite a lot north of Bangkok.
If all cases have to be brought to the court,
Yeah.
I think the court will be overburdened in Thailand.
Yeah, if you take traffic violations.
Yeah, interesting though. Jonas, I thought that if like in your study, if you can divide each city according to the type of the cases. For example, in Stockholm, if in there we can divide according to the criminal, maybe the real estate and environmental cases or something like that. Yeah, I think it might be interesting that which type of cases that make cause inefficiency, something like that. Have you done this kind of thing before?
No, we have not done that. And the reason we're not doing that is that well, you can do. But here, if we take this one, we say that what we do in the beginning is aggregate the data and we use this hearing time to normalize for the differences. And of course, that would be a good check if you have a correlation there between what type of cases you have when you have used the weights. Then your weighting will not work, actually. So it's a good point as a test for that.
Have you
No, we have not done it. That's your idea. I've never thought of that. But it's a good idea. Yeah.
Jonas, does it matter that the objective in law and in economics are quite different? Because in law, the objective is to achieve something to ensure that justice is observed.
Yeah.
But in economics, you want to achieve the objective in the most efficient way. So this kind of two objectives are not the same.
No, but every district court have the same objective. So it should be secure. It should be delivered in time. It should be correct.
But error could be made to ensure the justice.
Yeah.
They have to be careful.
Yeah.
And they say that to let the wrongdoing go, and it's better to keep one innocent in court. In
Yes.
jail.
Yes, of course.
Is it?
Yeah. But here it is. I think that we have two things that we can rely on. The first, of course, you can have variation between district courts. Okay, so then you have differences in quality. Here, we have not encountered differences in quality. We have tested some quality measures, and we find no correlation between efficiency or inefficiency and the quality measures that we have used. But everyone here, every district court, down here should have high quality in what they are doing in the legal system. But they should do it, but at the same time use as little resources as possible. So, I mean, if you look at the text in the law, it say, yeah, of course you should have in the structure for the district courts. It should be secure, it should be fair, and everything else. And then it should be efficient. So, since it's a relative measure, I said that, okay, everyone should do that. And basically what we assume is that you have the same quality, even though we have tested it a little bit. I think that also is one thing that is quite good within this type of method is that, okay, everyone should do the same. If they're not doing the same, then we have different technologies.
This is from economist's point of view.
Yeah.
Do you think the people in terms of in law and so on will agree with us?
I think that if you take the court administration, they definitely agree.
Did you find some objection from them?
No, actually, when we started this, they were very suspicious. But they have to produce also some type of productivity measures and stuff like that, and they guessing. Okay. So what we said, no, we can do something better. So the first discussions that we had, it was we and them. The final discussion, we were a team. Discuss, okay, how can we do this the best way? And I think that never underestimate the time spent with the stakeholders when you do this type of analysis. Because it's their environment that you're investigating, and they know it. So that's why we spent, as I started with, maybe 2.5, 3 months talking to them. When we had the results, we presented them. Is it possible? Can we understand them? Can you understand them? We did the same with the employment office. We did not do the same with... Oh, yeah. They took it. Okay, we put it in the yearbook. I think I presented with higher education institutions last time I was here. And then we did not do that. Because I think that, since I've been working at the University or higher education institution for almost 30 years, I know a little bit. I've been head of the department for 9 years, so I know a little bit. But we were heavily criticized by the deans, by the inefficiencies. So the correlation between inefficiency and the amount of criticism becomes perfect. So the lesson I learned from that exercise was that, okay, if you are working with this type of model, take your time, sit down with the stakeholders, and you only need to discuss two things. What is the input? What is the output? And then if you do cost analysis, you say, okay, what's a fair price? So, I think this, I talked to Sababat quite much also about doing something with China, and I think that this type of analysis, I know that you're heavily into econometrics, many of you, and econometrics often demand more than 48 observations, but for student work and also research, I mean, collecting the data, and there are now R packages that can be used to solve it. So it's no problem that do a standard analysis. And it's also important, besides being here in Thailand and in Australia, I'm also working in Africa. And in Africa, you don't have like statistics in Uganda. If you look at the data quality there, I said, okay, you have to collect your data. Okay. So what happened now is that the audit office in Uganda, they did an audit of referral hospitals. They did one on schools. The one on referral hospitals is published in the Scientific European Journal. And you can think about how happy they were as a quality assurance of what they are doing. So I really this is, I'm going to meet up with master students in supervised class on Friday. This is here if you are writing the thesis.
You find a colleague at this faculty to work of Thailand case.
Yeah, that's what I told Mamat.
There are some faculty members who are interested in law and economics.
Yeah. This, not this paper, but another paper is going to be published in Law and Economics. So there is some interest for the method, and I mean it would be so good to work with some Thai data also.
So other questions?
Just out of curiosity, if I'm a judge in Sweden, right, I can switch the job easily. If I'm a judge, I can switch
You're
the
a judge?
job.
Yeah, I think that if you're a judge, it works like this. I know this on my 5 fingers because my daughter is taking law now. So if you go to law school, then you become a lawyer. But then you have 2 strands that you don't choose. Either you be a lawyer or you go the judge way. And then you have to take like 5 years in a court. But when you have done those 5 years, those that go back as lawyers, they can demand quite much higher salary. And it's no problem to switch between them. But it's like you're doing your job at it. Just, that's why you're lousy paid. Because everyone wants to become a judge. So then you don't have to pay them as much. Supply and demand. So it's easy.
So then it means that if you move the court outside, right, to reduce the cost.
If you move
from Stockholm, right, to somewhere.
Oh yeah.
And then it means that I, as a worker, as a judge, right, I have a choice. Can I not be a judge anymore?
Oh yes.
Because I hate working somewhere outside of Stockholm.
No.
So I quit.
Yeah, and then you can move anywhere in Sweden. I promise you. And I can promise you that they will be happy. Maybe you don't get a job as a judge first, so you have to work as a lawyer and that. But if you have a degree and if you have start training, then and you finish that, there's no problem to switch. But I think that most of the judges, what they do is that they have these years where they're acting as judge. Then they go out and be a lawyer, defender. And then when they're 60, 62, then they go back to become a judge again.
When they retire from the
jobs. You know, we have in our inputs, we have number of judges and number of retired judges that work extra. So that's our solution to the shortage of judges, is that we put in and we prevent young people to becoming judges instead. But we think that we solved the problem, but we haven't.
Can I say that the district in which they have high efficiency, it has a lot of judge, right? No?
What do you say?
It means that if you want to be efficient, you need to have a lot of judge, right? Or making people want to stay there. Is that the case?
No, there's a few places. If you talk about attraction for judges and lawyers, there's a few places. The big cities, the Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö. The Stockholm is over here. Well, and you have this Jönköping, I said. And why Jönköping? Well, you have different careers that you can make within this little town. So you can be a judge, you can be a lawyer, you can work at the district court, you can work at the high instance court, you can work at the court administration, and you can do different. So, and everything you do there is like the day you decide to go outside on the private side again, to become a lawyer. Then you're specialized in that. I mean, if you're a judge in environmental cases, you'll be a very good consultant for firms.
Is lawyer the higher paid career?
Yeah, it is on the private side. Yes.
Is that a lot higher compared to the judge?
Oh yes. But as I said, if you have the experience as a judge, then you can charge much more as a lawyer. If you don't have that, okay, then you could. So I mean, this is say that becoming a judge for many is training.
So just being just like an intern, right, for being a lawyer.
Yeah,
This is particular case.
If you want to do an earning career, then it is. If you would like to have a soft and decent life, then you can stay as a judge.
Is my understanding correct that in Sweden, there is a less crime in Sweden because of the high economic condition of, in general? Is that true or not?
I guess it's a part of the puzzle, but I also think there's a reflection when I speak to this South African guy, is that I think also that it's deep inside in our head. You don't punch people in the face and don't drink and stuff like that. So this has a little bit about mindset also. Swedish attitudes towards committing crime. It's the same when we talk about in Europe, for example. We talk the difference between Sweden and Greece. Greece, you have this crisis. Why? Well, people didn't pay taxes. So why didn't they pay taxes? They didn't trust the government. In Sweden, it's like you take a fist and put it down in the pocket and say, okay, 50% tax off. And then you say, okay, what do I get for 50% tax? Free healthcare, free school for kids, pension, education. Yeah, okay, 50% is quite good. And then we have the organization I'm working for, the National Audit Office, who's for the Parliament. So the Parliament is monitoring the government. And we can actually if we have really heavy Brexit, then we can more or less make a government go away. And we have the right, we are totally independent also. So this is, we are part of the control system here. And I think that people, when they see what we are doing, and see, okay, we monitor you. You can't do whatever you like. And we have reports and said, okay, if you're doing something foolish.
How about the recidivist problem? Is it a problem in Sweden? Recidivist?
The recidivist.
One that has been killed in prison more than one time.
Oh,
recidivist.
Okay. Coming back from prison. Yeah. That's a problem because you're stabbed.
This is a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem. If you have been convicted, then, for example, if you want to work in school, then you have to take a copy from the criminal records and present it. So you will probably never have a job in a school. But I don't think it's,
I'm not sure that which country in Scandinavia that the government will pay, the one who cannot find a job, the ex-convict, to pay until he can find it for him.
Oh, that's really...
Because that will prevent this problem, this problem.
Yeah. Swedish...
Is it still happening?
Oh, yeah.
Some countries?
If you take... Yes. Swedish Scandinavian system. If you're unemployed, you have this insurance that's paid by the taxpayer. If you cannot survive on that, you have social assistance paid by the government. If you have worked before, then you also have social insurance, unemployment insurance. And if you are an ex-convict, I will say that, okay, if you can't find a job, they will provide for you in some way. Okay, you will not be rich, but that's a part of the Swedish welfare system that no matter who you are or what you have done, we have this work line, everyone should have a chance, but as an employer, if you're convicted, you're disqualified from some jobs.
So still, some people just go back to jail.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's like always 80-20, you know. So if you take the criminal statistics and said 20% are committing 80% of the crime. If you take, traffic offenders.
The statistic in the US say that most of the prisoners are recidivists.
Yeah. Well, and this is something that we're working with quite a lot. I think that it comes from private initiative now. So former convicted taking care of people that were released from prison. So you will be in a network. And that organization gets state support. As we do.